And we're here. We're here, John.
Well, I was waiting for a moment to see if the streaming software would hook up with Instagram here because, I tried to do my part in appeasing everyone on every particular social media platform to enjoy this experience. Right before the 4 o'clock meeting, I was starving and I ran over to Publix to pick up a pub sub, right? And in the checkout line, woman asked me, older lady, she says, would you like to make a donation to whatever cause today? And I was like, no, not today or whatever. She's like, little old lady. And she's like, okay, well, I need to see your ID. And I looked at her, I was like, why? Because I didn't make a donation. I was buying alcohol too. And they thought that was the funniest thing like they've ever heard.
You got to stop drinking on the job. I think that's.
I know. I just wish I could, have that kind of impact on people everywhere so effortlessly, like her and the guy, bagging the groceries. They thought it was hysterical. So I was like, wow, I just wish I could use this power for something. Anywho, yes, here we are again. It's Thursday, and we are talking about home delistings, which are on the rise. In fact, they are at their highest rate since 2015. And I said to you when we first hopped on here, I was like, Larry, I don't know what delisting is. Okay, obviously, I'm the caveman of this operation, so you're going to have to first fill me in on, what is a home being delisted? What does that mean? It's taken off the market. What does that mean?
Well, John, it's a home. It's a home that gets removed from the MLS, right? Because it couldn't sell. So basically, homes not selling are on the rise, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, so they didn't close. I see. That makes sense.
They tried to sell, couldn't sell, pulled it off the market.
Okay.
And there's a number of reasons why that could happen. And this article that we're referencing goes through what the symptoms are of a home delisting, right?
Well, and the first point I see on it, which is kind of what we've talked about many times with the dynamic of buyers and sellers trying to find, even footing here in South Florida in particular, is overpricing. I always feel like, sellers, at least when the market here was doing so well, just seem like they're still delusional about it, that, hey, this isn't 2022 anymore. But it looks like, I'd imagine that symptom has spread nationally.
I think most people that we meet with have an irrational belief in in value in the value of their home, right? Most, which is crazy, right? You would think that's not the case, and I think, and it's every type of human. It doesn't matter. Super science-based person. I've heard them tell me, I was just at one earlier this week. They thought their home was worth $5 million. It's worth $2.5 million. So that I almost fell off my chair on. So
where did they get that number? That's my question. Like where did that come from?
They gave me comps from. So this is a property that's on the water, but has fixed bridges. In order to get to the intercoastal and the ocean, right? So it's behind these fixed bridges. And in fact, it's behind like 4 fixed bridges. And they're giving me comps from properties that are like next, like on the intercoastal. And they're like, our property's worth like $1,600 a foot. And I'm like, well, you can't look at those properties. There's no fixed bridges over there, So anyway, they still didn't agree, but okay. And again, that's like most people. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I mean, do you know what the textbook definition of a prima donna is?
No, I don't.
It is an overinflated sense of one's self-worth. So I feel like this is like being a real estate prima donna. That's what that sounds like to me.
That's so funny. That's great.
Yeah. But I guess... what were you saying?
So to like elaborate on this home delisting thing, it's up 64% from a year ago nationally, which is a pretty big number.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So there's more prima donnas possibly today than there were last year. I don't know.
Yeah. I was going to say that's insane, but
yeah, I think like we go through a list of stuff: overpriced, changing life plans. Okay, people taking the property off the market to renovate or repair it, market conditions. The reality is it's market conditions. This is what it is. Like, it's like before, and I was telling a client, I've been telling clients this recently. What I've been saying is, valuation of a property is an art as much as it is a science, right? There's some science to this, but there's an art to this, because what we're doing is we're guessing at what all these other humans out there, the market, will determine we're worth after they come through the property. And the fact is no one home is really the same for a number of reasons. So it's really an art at trying to triangulate what a home is worth. And so historically, let's say call it 2015 through 2023 or even 2022, when I would go into a property and walk it and then sit down with a client and talk about, the comps and go through them with him. And I'd give my estimate of value or what I think it's possibly worth. Usually I was the more conservative estimate. I would be maybe let's just say I would say a home's worth $1 million. Maybe it's worth $1,020,000 or $1,050,000, right? Something like that, or 1.1 if we're really lucky, right? So maybe I'd be a little bit more conservative typically. Mm-hmm. Now, what I'm finding is as I'm doing these valuations, is I'm the bullish one in compared to the market, right? Not compared to the client. The client is usually always more bullish than I am. Again, right. Most people are prima donnas, real estate prima donnas. So now I'm saying, hey, I think it's worth $1 million and it might be worth $950, or I'm saying it's $950 and we're getting bids at $900 and we end up selling at $900 as an example. So now what we're seeing is a little bit of a flip, and so that's where the artistic piece comes in. You have to really have a strong sense of what the market's doing right now versus like, okay, we're looking at these sold comps that maybe closed even last month. But if it closed last month, that means it went under contract 2 months or 3 months or 4 months ago, right? So like that's a 4 months ago market. And that's in this market, it's different. It's changing that fast. So back to market conditions are softening faster than sometimes my pricing feel is adjusting, right?
Right.
So, which is interesting, and that's an example of a slowing market. Yeah,
I see. But again, it's like it's always hard to gauge because I feel like we're in this bubble of South Florida's real estate market has been so different seemingly from what I see nationally, just from seeing headlines and things. And I'm like, oh, well, sucks to be them. I don't see that happening here. So when I see some of these, I'm like, gosh, these delistings, as I know what it's called, I'm like, I'd be interested to know if we could have those numbers for our particular area. Cause I mean, you seem to close most of what you put out there.
We do, but I would tell you, even we are seeing that get very close to happening, or sometimes it's happening with us. Our clients aren't hitting the target. Whereas before they'd say, "Hey, here's my aspirational number. If I get it, we're selling. If I don't get it, we're staying." Right. Mm-hmm. And now usually it's like, "Well, you're staying." So and so that's fine. Or it's an investment property and there's a number that makes sense, and beyond that, it doesn't work. Right. I mean, we have clients that bought property a year or two ago that we're selling their homes for, and they're not getting what they paid a year or two ago. So, like that's a clear indication of market changing. I don't care what anybody else says. That's the truth. That's what we're feeling in the field. And this comes from somebody who's got 35 plus active sale listings, 20 rental listings, closing whatever number we're closing per month, right? These deals, we have a good sense of what's happening, especially in the greater Boca Raton market, Palm Beach County, Broward County, right? So, yeah.
And how many of those clients that you've had recently, I mean, do you feel like, well, I'm sure you probably have a pretty good idea, are just holding on to these places as investment properties, or they were ones that actually, hey, we're snowbirds, we're here half the year and now we don't want it anymore, or something like that? Like how many are they places people are actually living versus just an investment? We hope it appreciates and we'll sell it off.
Most people we're working with own their home and live in it.
Okay.
But it's not like I think if you were in like a different city, like where I grew up in New Jersey, where my mom used to be a real estate agent, most people there, like 80+%, 90% own their home, lived in it. She sold people's homes like primary residences. Here, I'd say, when I say most, maybe it's 60 or like 55, right? So it's like, it's still most people are primary residents, but there is a lot more investors and secondary home type people. You know, it'd be interesting to do that math. And really know the answer, but that's what it feels like. And that feel could be completely wrong, but it's that's my initial reaction.
I was gonna say, I don't know, man. You're pretty analytical. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt on a feeling.
Appreciate that.
But no, because I'm just always trying to picture what that, audience looks like, if you will.
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess my final thought is, as you made an interesting point about it being just as much of an art as it is a science, I guess you could say, so to speak. How much of that would you consider art in a case of a very high-end property that has nothing on it, like, I don't know, the Boca Trophy that we've discussed so many times? Because I'm just eternally fascinated by it. You know what I mean? Right. Because it's this huge plot of land that's right there on the water, but it just sits there. I mean, you think a lot of that was just, I'm just going to put an exorbitant number out there because we're in no rush to sell it. So if somebody actually does it, great. I mean, how much of it was art versus like we really were breaking down the numbers here?
I think there is some thought to like, hey, here's what, you can buy if you are someone who can spend $47 million or whatever it was.
It's still sitting there, isn't it?
Yeah, but I would expect that to take some time because they're building on it right now too, right?
So they are. Okay.
What we see a lot of times is like when you are listing a property pre-construction, some of the builders we work with don't list pre-construction or during construction, whereas others want to list during construction and just put it out there and say, hey, this is available, right? But again, people have that reaction when you list pre or during construction. It's like it tends to sit because most of the buyers want something right now to move into. They don't want to wait. They don't want to get involved with a builder. They don't want to do all that stuff. They don't want to have that like work because that's work, that's effort. So they just want to be like, okay, we're buying this house, right? And it really is work. Yeah.
I was going to say, well, you're putting that premium on hassle-free, I guess.
Yeah. So what a lot of these developers do, they say, okay, if you buy it while I'm under construction, well, then you're going to get one price. But as soon as I finish this, you're going to get, there's another price associated with it. So, but again, so the logic around, so sometimes that happens. Sometimes people show up and buy it. And then if you do it that way, but if you go the other direction where you just wait until it's done, I mean, you just hit the market. It looks like it's been on the market for 1 day versus 300, which you see what I'm saying? And people don't get confused with like, oh my God, it's been listed forever. Why isn't this selling? That's the question. But it just finished construction. So it's not really that it hasn't been selling. It's just like, the pool of buyers just expanded overnight when they got the CO for this place. It could actually bring people through, actually show people what it looks like, could feel it. Again, this emotional thing that goes back to the art of valuation, right? So, and valuing something that's 47 million is very different from valuing something that's 300 grand, right? So
that's
it's just, so that's, I think when it comes to delisting, there's comments here around like, renovations. Some sellers decide to pull it off the market, do and make repairs and or relist with a full renovation, things like that. A lot of this is just, from my perspective, nonsense. This like let's do some work to the place and then put it back on. In most cases, it's nonsense for our sellers that are sub $2 million. Unless because like. What people don't appreciate is this, at least in South Florida, from my perspective, this was different in other parts of the country, in my opinion, also. Again, where I grew up, where my mom used to be a realtor, like you do like a spruce up of a kitchen or a bathroom, you might actually get a return. Here, it's like, if you don't have like if you're not professionally finishing a renovation, or if you're piecemealing like, oh, I just did the bathroom, but the rest of the house is like half-assed or like different or piecemealed. It's like, you're not getting more money for that bathroom. You're not getting paid for that. It's just not happening. So like,
Sounds like you run into a lot of people who have that expectation.
or they do it before we even talk, and I'm just like, you just wasted 10 grand. You know what I mean? Or whatever the number is. 15
What they didn't do it with,
yeah, because
maybe they did it just to do it. I would hope was the case. They weren't anticipating selling, or
what we tell people is improvements for the average person are done for your enjoyment as the average person. So do it, live in it, enjoy it.
Right.
Don't decide to do all these improvements like the month before you list. You're not a professional. In most cases, most people screw this up. Most people. By most people, I mean like 99% of the humans that try to renovate their property or do some upgrade without consult from a realtor, a good realtor, by the way, screw it up. So like they'll do that bathroom, and yet the floors are different now, and like the style is different. Like you went super modern in the bathroom, and then you went like transitional or like I don't know, traditional everywhere else. It's like, what, that doesn't work. You know what I mean? That's just like, now it's worse. It's like, at least stick to one theme, or please. You know what I mean? Even if the theme isn't great or super desirable, stick to it, right? Lean in. So again, it's like this renovation repair thing is a little, it's like the sellers just have to learn the hard way, frankly. You're delisting your property because either your life plans have changed or you overpriced it.
What percentage would you say of people that you work with have put their home on the market within the last 2 years prior to listing with you?
Now it's like increasing a lot.
It is. Okay. Now
we're getting calls frequently because of our expertise on the condo side. Because you and I, all these videos we've done,
right?
Like I'm getting phone calls from sellers, people who know us or kind of knew us, or just straight out of nowhere. Like we're getting calls just like from people struggling. They found us and they're like, hey, you seem to know a lot about condos. I'm having this problem. I'm listed with this other agent and it's not working out. This, that, and the other thing. And so sometimes there's like an obvious, like, hey,
that's like the wandering eye from like a boyfriend to girlfriend or something.
Totally. And you know what? At the end of the day, you're priced wrong in most cases. It's just is what it is. Yeah. Can you benefit from swapping agents? And this is something this delisting thing goes into, right? Should you switch agents? Can you benefit? Yeah, we can show, certain things that we do that other people don't. Okay, great. Maybe that's happening. On the other hand, it's just like taking it off and putting it back on, and putting it back on with fresh photos, fresh agent, fresh marketing approach. All those things can be helpful. But in most cases, that all happens, plus you drop your price. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
So like in most cases, this is just like the real talk right now, right? So like,
well, it's true. Yeah,
I had this lady has 2 condos in another building. I know her from way back. She was like, hey, I don't know if you remember this. I was with you there or whatever. And she's like, I'm working with someone else, having trouble. And I was just like, listen, I'm happy to help you. And I gave her that speech, and I was just like, you're priced too high, probably. Like if I had to make a quick guess, like drop your price $50,000. I know you don't want to hear that for a $280,000 listing. It's like drop your price, right?
So. Oh man, so it's just like, you're saying we're not getting back together, huh? That's what it sounds like. Speaking of getting back together, though, when I think about TV and film, particularly Miami, sort of like the lasting impact of Miami Vice. I mean, like the styles and trends and stuff when they have like, certain alternate jerseys for the Miami Heat, or I see stuff with the Miami Dolphins. Like that style of the 80s has had such an enduring impact and identity of South Florida, particularly in Miami. I mean, to this day, kind of that turquoise, not even turquoise, but turquoise and hot pink, I'm talking about, with the blazers and the sleeves rolled up or whatever. Obviously, having a successful show can really, help an area grow, not just in terms of exposure and popularity, but actually having jobs on site, because I'd imagine they were filming that in Miami, I think. With the magic of movies and TV, you never know. Anyway, the reason I bring this up, as anyone who's tuned in that sees it on the thumbnail, Miami-Dade County is trying to do something that we've seen in other states. And it's interesting because it's just the county doing this. It is called the High Impact Film Fund, which is a $10 million film incentive program intending to give big tax rebates to film production companies who do their projects in Miami-Dade. Obviously, there's a whole bunch of strings attached. They got to make sure that 60% of the below line crew is county residents. So, they hire local. Larry, I don't know how familiar you are with this. This one kind of strikes a nerve with me, obviously, having an acting sabbatical in Georgia. Let's go back to 2008. Georgia, passes this huge tax rebate, like 20% up to 30% rebate on all film and TV productions filmed in the state of Georgia. And it has turned that state into, at least as of 2018, and I believe in the time since, they filmed more major TV and film productions in Georgia than New York or California. Like, that's how big it got. And I mean, knowing and getting to know locals in that area, sure, it's made the traffic absolute hell, but the economy's done very well. So I guess from the real estate standpoint, what stands out to you when you see Miami really trying hard to pull this industry back to Miami, particularly in Miami-Dade County?
As you're talking about this, I didn't even think about this when we were talking about it earlier today, but I think I moved to South Florida because of two influential movies I saw 25 years ago, Fast and the Furious and Bad Boys 2.
Because Bad Boys would have been my guess. I was like trying to think of films. I forgot Fast and the Furious was based there.
Well, one of the films was based in Miami, which is cool.
Oh man!
And so I think I moved to South Florida because of that.
Really? What when you were looking at colleges and FAU's got a good engineering program, and hey, it's South Florida.
Yeah, I wanted to move to Miami. I wanted to be, and then it ended up being FAU because of soccer and the engineering, but it just made sense. But and the whatever. So I think that's true. So I don't know. I think I agree with that. I think there's like that imagery creates like this interesting attraction to a specific area, and Miami obviously can do that really well because it's got all the cool stuff, right?
Well, so. And here's the challenge. Part of the reason it works so well in Georgia is because, there's so many different types of geography within that state. I mean, for anyone who's not familiar, I know they've filmed a whole bunch of those Marvel movies there. Like, for example, the one, it was that first Spider-Man with Tom Holland that came out a few years back, and they take a field trip to Washington, D.C. and all that. They still filmed all of that in Georgia. Like, I mean, that's just, in the Avengers movies, when they're in Wakanda and stuff, they're not in Wakanda, they're in Georgia. I mean, it's true. Like, there's so many different, I would say anything short of like mountain ranges. I mean, they basically, had it there. So I think that's a big part of it. And the reason I say that is it's like, you look at Miami. I mean, Florida doesn't have a lot of diversity when it comes to the types of geography within, the area. So I'd be interested to see like how effective this would be for that reason alone.
Yeah, I guess if you're looking for, it's a good point.
Well, I mean, not necessarily that you're always having to film on location. I mean, people, build studios. They just do it all in there and let the green screen take care of the rest. But like I'm looking at some of the factors that are involved with being eligible for these tax rebates. Budget of $5 million or more, which again, naturally, this is to, bring in the higher end productions, even though nowadays $5 million is nothing. But 90% of the filming takes place within Miami-Dade County. That's a lot. So I'd be interested to know. I guess Michael Bay, who was really the one pushing for this, the director who likes to blow up everything. I mean, he made the Bad Boys movies, and
my hero.
Pain and Gain. Which one is that? Is that the one with Travolta and Jamie Lee Curtis?
I can't remember.
Oh man, I feel I'm kind of which movie is Pain and Gain?
No, I think isn't this Mark Wahlberg movie?
Oh, is that what it is?
Where they're
I
they're
don't.
bodybuilders.
Yes, you're right. I never
Right?
saw this. I didn't even know this was a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow. All right. Well, we're learning all kinds of things today.
Well, we'll flip this back to real estate. So one, I think it kind of makes the area more interesting to relocate to, right? But they were saying here a few things, just like crews in the area, people in the area, they need housing. So like, if you have a big production, that's interesting. Short-term rental businesses are going to do well here with that. Commercial real estate, as you mentioned, it's going to be in big warehouses, green screened up, or any of those big dynamic LED screens that they use these days, right? And then back to the tourism thing again, makes Miami look pretty cool all over the world. I think Miami's already got that reputation, but
yeah, and I think that's where it started. Really, was Don Johnson, sporting rolled up sleeves.
Yeah.
No, what also occurs to me, and you're not going to see this on necessarily, with the real estate side of it anyway. From a political standpoint, what makes Florida, I'd imagine they're in the same boat as Georgia. If you're not in the Screen Actors Guild, right, you cannot step foot on set in New York or California unless you're in SAG. That's just how it is. Because Georgia was a right to work state, you didn't have to be in SAG to do it. I mean, I had a couple lines on a Tyler Perry show. I'm not in SAG. So that's a big part of it. And I'd be interested to see if that also applies. Florida's a right to work state, isn't it?
I believe so. That's cool.
So, so that's one of those things, just if you learn more about this, to always keep in mind. So if you're an aspiring actor who just kind of wants to see if they can break into it, states like that are great. But at the same time, you kind of have this glass ceiling where, say you want to be like the headliner, they're still plucking them all out of New York or LA. Like they're not going to even consider you if you're from neither of those places. So that's been the ongoing dynamic with all of this for a while. But anyways, as I'm looking at the increased demand for housing, film crews, and talent, when it goes to the workforce housing, Miami's got the same problem everybody else down here does.
Yeah.
It's like sweet Chevy, like, oh yeah. Yeah.
You like paused on me there. I was like, yeah, I think you and I have talked about this a bunch, right?
Right.
Just the unaffordability of this area.
It's like
the wealth is pouring in, but there's still the service businesses or the people who are in the service businesses or industry, hospitality, etc. Speaking of hospitality, we're about to talk about the breakers, right?
They're dealing with it too.
Yeah, they're commuting from far away to live to be able to just work their job because they can't live closer, right? And so that's what
let's take a little transition to that. So if people who are who aren't familiar with the breakers, the beautiful hotel and restaurant right there on the water on the Palm Beach Island. I mean, it's a beautiful place. They have workforce housing, and they have a large workforce. They need to find them housing. So
this is unique. This is a first for the area, at least. The breakers are proposing/pursuing building affordable housing for their employees, right? And they've worked out a deal with Palm Beach County, and they've received land at a very cheap price because they're planning to build affordable housing on it, primarily for their employees, right in the basically downtown West Palm area, which makes their commute, these employees' commutes, like, I don't know, 15 minutes tops probably to work, so pretty cool concept. And this is something that's, as we talked about, is a bigger issue than just the breakers. Everybody else is dealing with this too, but the breakers are actually getting after it. They're trying to solve this, and this is going to take a while to implement, but they're well on their way here, right?
And I guess what stood out to me when I was first seeing news stories about this was because my immediate thought is, I'm like, all right, well, I mean, the breakers has been there for a while. I'm like, so what did you guys used to do? And it's like, wow, they used to have enough open rooms within the facility that they house the workforce there. And it's like, oh, so, this is like a consequence of being so popular that I'd imagine they probably sell out every room. And not to mention, every room that's not being used by a visitor is costing them a decent amount of money. So
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got to maximize profits at all costs,
Yeah. So they're building, as we talked about, we actually have it here. So they actually have a location, lot picked out, all that good stuff. I didn't share my screen yet. Let's share screen right here. So this is the location in theory, which again is, Breakers is over here, right? And this is the location. Just outside of downtown. This is like a pretty sweet, like pretty close to downtown location for workforce housing. So
it'd be nice if they had some sort of bus service or something, tram to get everybody in and out.
I bet they will do that. I bet that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. That's a good point. And so not only is the Breakers doing this and they're working with Palm Beach County to do it, but Palm Beach County has also committed $200 million to the Affordable Housing Initiative in the county overall. So, which means developers can get potential low interest financing for these projects along with other incentives, right? So in this case, as we just mentioned, the city declared the land that they're looking at here as surplus, which basically allowed it to be sold as potentially, at a lower price than typical, right?
And I wonder who approached who about that. You know what I mean? Did the people at the Breakers come to the city and say, hey, if you give us a nice deal here, we'll, we want to build some here, or the other way around saying, hey, we got to get workforce housing. What do you guys think about if we do this? I'm sure it was probably the previous, but whatever.
This is an interesting concept, though, that could be duplicated or replicated for other big companies in the area that have a number of employees of this stature, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. So we'll keep an eye and see how many other businesses have an opportunity to partake in these subsidies for workforce housing, because as we've talked about many times, we need it. And looking,
let's talk about something else here.
Yeah, let's look cool at this. Actually, this of all the stuff we were looking at earlier, this actually got my attention the most.
I know,
using Lego-like building technology, which in hindsight, I was like, well, wow, if we can actually do that, why the hell have we waited this long to do this? What? Oh, now we're going to take part Legos. Are you familiar with Renco and these Lego-like bricks, Larry?
No, I'm not actually. There's a bunch of different, you can see it on the screen right now that we're sharing, right? There's a bunch of different companies that are doing unique things like this. But this one is based in South Florida. So it's pretty cool. And a lot of these other companies historically haven't been, or these building alternatives haven't been set up for the wind requirements for South Florida, right? So, but this construction style or type is set up for that. So these can be used here locally, which is pretty interesting.
Well, the one I thought of, and I'm sure you've probably seen this too, especially given your engineering background. I don't remember who exactly was doing it, but you've seen 3D printers, right? It was essentially, it was an oversized 3D printer that was building a house. And I'm just kind of like, well, yeah, if you can make a 3D printer that big, I'm like, why wouldn't you do this?
Yeah, I think and this may or may not be the issue, but you can see them building houses right here, right?
Yeah.
Which is pretty neat. I think part of the struggle here is just getting these alternative options to a scale that
feasibly makes sense.
Yeah. I don't know if that's true for this company exactly, and also like this is different from how we've built houses forever. So all these other subcontractors, there's not many people that are used to this, what I mean? So all these other subcontractors they don't have any skills at building these things. So you have to retrain people to do this specifically. So
another thing it made me think of too, I don't know if you've seen these, but a lot of smaller major cities have them. It's a very like hipster kind of thing to do. And I've seen some housing projects like it where they use those huge shipping containers.
Oh yeah.
And they built, yeah. Cool. I mean, for example, when I was in Tulsa, they built like, there was like 30 of them, shipping containers, and they have like a dozen or so restaurants and shops and things. It's called the Box Yard. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool when they're actually able to do it. I mean, literally, they have a dry cleaners in one of them. So it's like, I mean, if you can make it work. I don't see why we don't do more stuff like this.
Yeah, I think just the strict building codes in South Florida are the biggest hurdle for most new technologies to kind of get in here from a building perspective. There's a few these guys probably have to go through a lot of work, a lot of effort with the cities, the counties to actually get approved to even build these homes, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas in other parts of the country, you may have less stringent requirements and standards, right? The Miami-Dade code is what everybody kind of goes by here, right? And that kind of sets a lot of wind requirements, basically, and watertight requirements that these companies need to meet.
Which is ironic, that there's so many government restrictions on stuff like that, because considering that overall statewide, we're in a much more conservative area, that there would be much more laxed restrictions on everything. But yet, it seems like buildings are one of the few things that it's, really.
Well, I think what happens is this goes back to the Surfside thing, right? Like with the Surfside, the condo collapse, which we're gonna talk a little bit more about the condo market here in a minute. But it, like catastrophe, bunch of rules come into place, right? Right. And so like Hurricane Andrew, 90s.
Yeah, early 90s.
2002, Miami-Dade code, right? Like immediately after, we're like, there's all these new requirements to stop people from dying, right? So I think it's more of like a big safety thing than anything else. Yeah. So
let's talk about the condos then.
Yeah, this is super cool though. And to your point, I'm super interested to see where this goes. We'll leave it with this. A 2,000 square foot home can be built by just 2 people in one day, they claim, right? And they also claim that it's cheaper than normal building costs. So this is all super interesting. And they also claim that they saw an insurance cost drop by 20% compared to other homes that weren't built with this material. So I don't know how that all plays out in reality, but it all sounds super cool, and I'm rooting for them.
Yeah, well, you see that, you might have just hit the nail on the head right there, considering how much of a problem we're having with the insurance skyrocketing costs here. That could be the kicker. And hopefully they like look okay. I mean, I'm picturing, I know you had the video pulled up and seen a little bit what they look like, but naturally I'm picturing, like navy blue, like, I don't know, just whatever Lego color comes behind, or bright yellow.
Well, that's what they say. Like, it's a little bit of, I think you can change the color.
Okay, good.
I think you're okay with that.
Lego blue.
I think they were saying just like they can't do super complicated, like, I don't know, finishes around, like they were saying it looks a little boxy is what I was reading. So it's not, you can't do very unique designs. Maybe that's not true. I don't want to claim things, but that's what they were suggesting. The designs currently have some limitations because they have to fit them perfectly within, they have to build the Legos. So
they have to build the Legos.
Let's talk about condos.
All right. Condo prices and sales keep falling in South Florida, except for Palm Beach County. So Larry, does that surprise you at all?
It's interesting. I think condos overall have felt the softening effect, and we sell a lot of condos in Palm Beach County as well as Broward County. So, but the stats, as I've shown in the past, they look like the median sale price is kind of held, right? Despite all the negative publicity and news, which is kind of interesting. I suspect that might change here in the future. Usually the data lags a little bit. The closed data lags what we're actually feeling, but we've been feeling this way for a while. And there's certain communities where absolutely there's problems without question. Actually, this week, circling back to what I was saying earlier about getting calls from people about the condo issues that they're experiencing. I have one homeowner that called, reached out. They're like, "Hey, I inherited this. I put it in my name. I did all this work. There's a loan that I inherited. Everything's under my name now, and I'm regretting doing it because now I'm being told that I can't sell the property because it's been condemned. So they won't approve the buyer, and title won't transfer ownership." And isn't allowed to, or whatever. We're getting into the weeds on this. And so I put him in touch with my association attorney that we work with, who we've interviewed on here in the past. Right. And we're kind of like working through the details to see if we can actually sell this thing, or if she's just going to have to give it up. And then the whole thing is like, well, she's upset because like, if she just like gives it up, then she's basically giving the keys back, and that's like a deed in lieu of foreclosure. So now all of a sudden that's on your record. And this person who's inherited it was like, I should have just done nothing.
Yeah.
Forgot about it and just let it go, because the loan is so big, right? That it's like almost at the point where it's like, I just need to get rid of this. And I'm not going to make any money on it now because of the whole situation probably. So like, why did I even take it on? I should have just like not done any estate planning work on this and just let it go, and leave it in the person who passed away's name. So
have you ever encountered anything like that?
That's a new one. That's a new one. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. But there's other issues that are less dramatic. And so certain buildings, we have another community that, oh man, I would say we're about to sell this one condo at $375,000 that I would argue probably would have sold for $450,000, maybe even $475,000, $450,000 a year and a half ago. And so $75,000 drop in value, in my opinion, without over a year and a half time period. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. So, and that one, the first one was in Broward, this one's in Palm Beach County. So there's issues everywhere. I think it's just a matter of like buying in the right buildings at this point, and understanding the details.
And I know we've talked about this before too. You've had so many buyers that they're looking to retire. They're coming to South Florida. And again, these are people that obviously aren't kids. They look at Miami and around there, and it's just, it's too much. And I don't mean in terms of price. I mean, if you've been to Miami, I mean, everything's going on and it's crowded and it's sensory overload. Palm Beach County is very different from that, generally speaking. How much, in your opinion, do you think that kind of impacts why the prices and sales aren't falling here versus other places in Florida and elsewhere in the country?
Yeah, I think, as I'm sitting here thinking about this, and Palm Beach County has some newer product than Broward and Dade. I think if you looked at the age of everything in aggregate, probably Broward or Dade has a lot of old stuff. They were building more there before they were building in Palm Beach County. Not always, but and then everything development kind of moved from Dade all the way up, right? And so like you probably have some newer stuff, slightly more newer stuff in Palm Beach County than you do in Broward or Dade, and that could be a big portion of why it seems like Palm Beach County's hanging in there. And I just think they're hanging in there for now. I just think it's lag.
Right.
Yeah, like that's my reaction. So yeah, this is interesting. Record high median prices. The median home price in South Florida is over $600,000, 60% higher than the national median average, right? So this is the single family home market, and the condo market is feeling something completely different, right? It's just downward.
So it just seems like those regulations have been such a game changer. I just wonder, they're going to have to amend those laws or something, some sort of financial, softening to make the burden not as I mean, it's clearly hurting people.
The state has said at different times that, they're not planning to make these changes at the moment. Right. So, and frankly, all these changes are, like, I don't say all of them, the ones I'm aware of that I think are helpful. And it's just a lot of pain to get to a better place, which is easy for me to say because
Yeah,
I'm
no,
not
I mean, something had to be done, of
yeah,
course.
I'm not in pain. So like it's easy for me to say that. So yeah,
Mm.
but there's like, if everybody could have reserves in their building and all the buildings could be updated and not dangerous or just dilapidated, that would be great. But again, in order to do that, costs money. And in order to do that in a timely fashion, everyone's going to come up with a lot of money that they weren't expecting to need to come up with. This is interesting too. Broward County has nearly 11 months supply of condos, making it a buyer's market, right? For sure. Meanwhile, Miami-Dade inventory, though below pre-pandemic levels, hasn't been enough to stabilize prices. So like, again, it's just a funky market out there right now for condos and everything. We're representing a buyer here on one of the condos. This just happened in the past week. We came in, soft condo market, let's offer lower price, this, that, and the other thing. We put in this offer lower than asking, thinking it was going to be okay. Before we know it, we're in a bidding war and we're paying asking price and we win it. And so the buyer shows up, pays asking price after getting in a bidding war with an NFL player, supposedly. And that's where we're at. It's like, well, and then turn around and I got another listing like down the street. And it's like that listing I can't sell for the life of me. Right. So it's like crazy. It's all over the place. It's, again, some of it's building driven specifically. And some of it's just luck of the draw at this point.
And I just, I feel bad because, this must be a total case of, just passing the buck. That, because these are people that are retired. They're like, well, you know what? We'll let the next guy take care of it. Like, how many generations do you think that probably happened with the reserves and everything else on the budget to where now we finally got to this point? It's like, it was like musical chairs and the music stopped.
Totally. That's what it is. That's exactly what it is. And that's usually when you have a crash, right? Like the music stops, like you can't keep passing the buck. It's like a Ponzi scheme. Like they were running a condo Ponzi scheme, right? It's kind of nuts.
I mean, a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
And it's unfortunate. I mean, gosh, again, because I'm sure there were people, I'm probably most, when you really took a moment to stop and think about it, that knew this would eventually happen. But again, it was just, you're just hoping you kind of last or don't last, to where you had to worry about it.
Yeah. So at this moment, if you're a condo owner, I still think you're probably in a decent spot I don't think we're at bottom in this condo market. If you ask me, it feels like the summer and the fall, if interest rates remain where they're at and the current situation around condos continue to exist, which it probably will, all that probably will. So I think we're going to continue to see softening here. It's becoming more and more concerning to me because this market we're in is supposed to be the hottest market of the season, of the year. It's the seasonality trend is that February, March, April is the time the most deals and the best deals get done, the easiest time to sell. And what we're seeing is inventory continue to climb during the season, which typically we haven't seen in the past, for a while. So yeah. Another comment, though, this is interesting from this article. West Palm Beach leads the nation in all cash sales.
Say that again?
West Palm Beach leads the nation in all cash sales. So more people are buying cash in Palm Beach County than any other place in the nation. That's and so they say this has kept demand strong, especially in the luxury segment. And we are absolutely seeing this. So like we can say the condo market's softening, et cetera, but any new condo build, for the most part, they're selling. They're pre-selling. They're sold out. They're getting it done. If you're so like as we talked about before, the Related Group and all these other big developers and this includes Broward County, Dade County, Palm Beach County, includes everybody like Broward, Pompano, for example. We've talked about this so many times. It's just like, wow, it's mind blowing how quickly these guys are selling condos that haven't even been built yet, right? So
speaking, so give a nice shout out to Stephen Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins. I saw a random sports article earlier. Every year at the end of the season, the NFL Players Association does surveys and things to rate how they feel about each of the 32 organizations and how they handle things and so on. The Miami Dolphins were ranked first overall on about a dozen different factors, including ownership, which was first. I saw that. So Steve Ross, the man does good work. I know the Dolphins didn't exactly have the results they were hoping for this season, but in terms of, keeping people happy and upgrading their facilities and everything else, which was, I guess, a big part of what made everybody so happy there. The guy, he's not cutting corners.
That's
so you can sleep soundly knowing that fact.
Thank you for sharing that.
All right, shall we move on?
Yeah, let's end it on topic 6, right?
All right, the South Florida real estate boom. There are 9 markets predicted to rise in 2025. This, according to Realtor.com. If you've been thinking about buying a home or investing in property, you'll probably want to consider the fact that of the 100 largest U.S. metropolitan areas, Realtor.com concluded that 9 Florida markets are set to see a rise in both home prices and sales in 2025. To the surprise of no one, at Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach, Orlando, number 2. Yeah, they're always right there.
Jacksonville,
yeah. Cape Coral. I mean, I feel like I might as if I name all these off, I feel like I'm literally like naming off like the 9 largest areas in Florida.
Right. Yeah. Bradenton, Sarasota, Daytona, Titusville or Melbourne and Palm Bay, Cape Coral to Fort Myers. It's kind of interesting that I have a slightly more bearish outlook. I'm sure if these markets go up or rise, it's going to be slightly, right? That's my reaction, at least how things feel right now in the marketplace.
Well, again, people are still going to retire. I mean, that's kind of why I feel like they always, it's still going to keep growing. I mean, I don't think the baby boomers are done just yet.
Well, that, and I think you're getting more probably baby boomers considering other more affordable markets than Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano. Maybe I think Orlando has more, because again, we're selling homes. The people's homes we're selling here are boomers that are getting out of here because it's
really
too expensive. And then
interesting
buying these things are people who are coming to work. You know what I mean? Younger population.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So I think we're seeing a shift to a younger, dynamic or demographic here in South Florida overall. Again, because people are on fixed income. Most of the homes we're selling, people are older and going to a cheaper market. It's most of the people we're meeting.
So, I mean, are they leaving Florida or just leaving South Florida?
Combination, leaving Florida, moving, to Jacksonville or other markets that are just cheaper, whether that's Orlando, a lot of people Orlando, a lot of people Jacksonville. And so I think you're seeing that. And then what we're seeing also is the younger population in Miami, the 30-year-olds, 35-year-olds moving a little bit more north if they're sticking around the area into like the Boca Raton market or so we're seeing that quite often. People come up from Miami. So yeah, it's a thing for sure. Yeah, which is interesting. But again, I think they're saying predicted to rise. And I just like when you say predicted to rise, it's like, well, how much are you predicted to rise? And I just think you and I have seen from doing these market updates together, it's
leveled off a lot.
Yeah, Q3 of 2024 was 0% median price growth year over year on Boca. And then Q4 of 2024 was 3% median price growth. So, and then now we're in the season of selling. So let's see what Q1 of 2025 looks like coming up. And we'll probably do a market update here in the next week or two on this, on our channel here, but together. But I'm going to guess that the price growth is continuing to slow. It's going to float. Sub 5% price growth is my bet. for the next time we do this. Like, I'd be surprised if it's higher, but we'll see. And if it isn't, if it's like closer to zero, I have my concerns, major concerns for the summer, because the summer is usually where we start to see things slump, right, a little bit more. And then the early fall and then the early winter, all that seems to be a little slower than now, right? I mean, we're busier than we've ever been, and this is very unique for us, as far as how we're feeling about the market. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, and when I'm looking at it, and they're kind of highlighting which South Florida markets are predicted to grow the most, as mentioned, Miami, Fort Lauderdale, Pompano Beach metro area, a predicted 33% in home sales and prices by 2025. Yeah, that's, like you said, that's
I'm not buying
ambitious. Yeah.
I'm not buying it. Like, I don't know where they're getting this data from. And you and I pull this data. We know the data. It's just, I just disagree.
I was gonna say, hey, I mean, best of luck. All right, so you want to finish on this one?
Yeah, let's call it for tonight.
Sounds good, man. All right, for everybody tuning in, thanks. As always, Larry Mastropieri, broker owner of the Mastropieri Group, based right here in South Florida. You're interested in buying, selling, relocating to South Florida, Larry is the guy to talk to.
The guy.
I'm John Laws of Discover South Florida. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one.